when we look at when I was investing and documenting ImmunityBio at $1.50 or Precigen at around the same price too, is that I'm buying these companies when they're really unpopular. I'm buying these companies when they're distressed, when there is pessimism in the market. And it's why I'm able to get such high margins, which I've kind of documented when I've kind of exposed my portfolio to you in previous videos too. And again, the reason I can get these results is because on the first hand, I'm evaluating the team, I'm looking for world-class leadership, but then in conjunction with that, I'm trying to find companies under a level of distress, but that there is an indication kind of either through management, their expertise, their previous track record, or certain announcements that I can anticipate coming, which will kind of almost transform the trajectory of the company. And so Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals and Humacyte are two of the examples of companies that I'm invested in right now that are distressed or unloved for various reasons. You know, on one hand, we have Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals, which is a very, very early stage biotech company. You know, their pipeline is in the very early stages, and this could be judged quite high risk. You know, they don't necessarily have a treatment up for any kind of approval anytime soon. And Humacyte have experienced a number of setbacks. In particular, it's a go-to-market strategy with Symvess, the product which is now FDA approved for a particular indication for vascular trauma, but they're experiencing this bottleneck at the moment where the treatment is only approved for a very niche patient population. On top of that, they need to train staff on how to use Symvess and administer it on to patients too, which in turn is slowing the uptake, and they've had very slow revenue results posted since the approval. As a result, they've diluted numerous times. The stock is very unpopular. But I think one of the critical things that most investors are not looking at is trying to understand why the sales are slow. And like I said, the sales are slow simply because right now the treatment is only approved for vascular trauma. So only for patients who, for example, have experienced a traumatic injury, either on the battlefield or in an industrial environment, a factory, something of that nature. Because these situations are quite scarce, and on top of that, medical staff need to be trained on how to administer it onto patients. There's been a very slow uptake and sales with this product at the moment. And this is why we see it trading where it is at the moment. They've had numerous dilutions, as I was saying, simply because they are continuing to bankroll the company. But essentially, my investment with Humacyte, I have a level of conviction with the company simply because I'm hedging on things to change over the future. You know, one of the critical things is to look at their pipeline. They're working at the moment to get this same product, the Symvess product, approved for a new patient population in dialysis, where uptake should be quicker, and there is a potential for a recurring revenue opportunity with the dialysis approval too. This changes the trajectory for Humacyte over the long term. As we can see from their pipeline, they're also looking to get this same treatment approved for other indications too, which in turn over time is going to increase their revenue. Now, it's important to note that these things take time. You know, this investment that I have with Humacyte at the moment, this is a long-term investment. I'm holding on to this because I see the innovation. I recognize the product and the value in the product. It's proven on one hand with vascular trauma to save lives and that it's safe. And again, what I'm doing is I'm hedging on the fact that they will get it approved for the dialysis indication, which we can see in their pipeline right here, and the others that we can see in the future that may take potentially 3 years or 4 years or so. But just being patient and understanding the value of the product, the fact that it's saving lives, and recognizing the innovation too. On the flip side, when we look at something like ImmunityBio, you know, there's far less risk in the company compared to when I was investing. You know, I was investing in this stock, like I was saying, at $1 at $2.50 at a time when their treatment Anktiva was in phase 2. No approvals by the FDA at that point. And now I'm just continuing to hold the stock, simply because over time, you know, this is going to strengthen my portfolio over the long term. The treatment Anktiva has been approved, it's generating revenue, and ImmunityBio are in the process of executing their expansion strategy over 4 continents, which we can see here. There's also far less risk with Precigen now compared to when I was buying it at $1.50 and under. You know, they have their first treatment, Papzimios, approved in the US at the moment. They've now gathered market exclusivity for, I think, around 7 years in the US market too for this treatment, and they're in the process of getting a approval in the EU too, with the potential for a 10-year market exclusivity for Papzimios in the EU too.